On the afternoon of February 9, 1989, 20-year-old Tiffany Sessions left her apartment in Gainesville, Florida, wearing a yellow sweatshirt and a pair of Reebok sneakers, planning to take a short walk through her quiet college neighborhood. And for the next 25 years, every person who had ever loved her would spend their lives wondering what could have possibly happened in those 45 minutes. If you're drawn to cases where someone vanishes in plain sight on an ordinary afternoon, subscribe to the Untold record. This is exactly what we do here. Tiffany was a junior at the University of Florida, studying finance and on track to graduate with honors. She had grown up in Boca Raton in a comfortable, close family, the daughter of a well-known South Florida investment professional. Her relationship with her parents was strong. Her relationship with her younger brother was strong. By every external account, her life had been steady, focused, and unmarked by the kind of personal turbulence that often becomes important in cases like this. She lived in a small off-campus apartment complex in Gainesville called the Casablanca East, a clean, lightly populated set of buildings tucked behind quiet residential roads and patches of Florida pine forest. The neighborhood was the kind of place where joggers, dog walkers, and students were common at all hours of the day. There was nothing dangerous about it. There was nothing remote about it. It was the type of place where people went about their lives without giving safety a second thought. On the afternoon of February 9th, Tiffany had been at home doing schoolwork. Her boyfriend at the time had spoken to her on the phone earlier that day, and her plans for the rest of the afternoon were ordinary. She wanted to go for a walk to clear her head before settling back into her studying. She left her apartment around 5 o'clock in the evening. She had told someone she would be back in less than an hour. She never came back. When Tiffany failed to return that night, her roommates initially assumed she had decided to extend her walk or stop somewhere along the way. By the next morning, when she still had not come home, they knew something was wrong. Her parents were called. By the time her father, Patrick Sessions, arrived in Gainesville the following day, a search had already begun. Friends, classmates, and volunteers walked the route she was known to take. Police canvassed the surrounding neighborhoods. Flyers were printed. Her photograph appeared on local news within 48 hours. What investigators found was almost worse than finding nothing at all. They found a single Reebok shoe print along the side of a road near the apartment complex, a print that matched the shoes Tiffany had been wearing that afternoon. They found nothing else. No witnesses. No struggle. No clothing. No personal items. No blood. No trace of a vehicle. No sign that she had ever stopped walking, and no sign that she had ever been forced into anything. She had simply walked into the late afternoon sunlight of a quiet Florida neighborhood and had never been seen again. For years, her family lived between hope and dread. Her father became one of the most public missing person advocates in the United States. He gave interviews. He spoke at conferences. He built a foundation in her name that helped fund searches for other missing children across the country. He spent his savings and his energy keeping her face in the public eye. Tips came in from across Florida and beyond. None of them led anywhere. Decades passed. The University of Florida grew. The neighborhood changed. The Casablanca East complex stayed standing, quietly aging, while every student who came through it eventually left and moved on with their lives. Tiffany's story slowly turned from breaking news into a name carried only by people who chose to remember her. But her family never stopped pushing. And eventually, the pushing led to a name. It would turn out that in 2014, more than 25 years after her disappearance, the Alachua County Sheriff's Office publicly identified a man named Paul Eugene Rowles as the prime suspect in Tiffany's case. Rowles was a convicted murderer who had been serving a life sentence in Florida for the killing of another young woman. He had a long, deeply documented history of violence against women dating back decades. Investigators had been able to place him in the Gainesville area at the time of Tiffany's disappearance, and a notebook recovered from his prison cell included entries that referenced numbers and dates investigators believed were tied to multiple victims. One of those notations corresponded to the year Tiffany disappeared. Paul Rowles had died in his prison cell in 2013, before authorities could formally charge him in connection with her case. She had been gone for so long that the man identified as responsible for her disappearance had already died of natural causes behind bars without ever speaking a word about what he had done to her. To this day, no remains have ever been found. The exact location of what happened to Tiffany has never been determined. In 2014, Tiffany Sessions was officially named the presumed victim of Paul Eugene Rowles. Her case remains classified as an unsolved disappearance because her remains have never been recovered, but investigators no longer consider the question of who is responsible to be an open one. And sometimes the most unsettling cases aren't the ones with no suspect. They're the ones where the suspect lived behind bars for years, knowing exactly where she was the entire time, and taking that information with him into the grave. If you're drawn to cases that still echo long after they're closed, subscribe to the Untold record. There's always another file waiting to be opened.